After dedicating 28 years of my life to a company that became my second family, I was cast aside for an AI that could never understand the heart I poured into my work. As I cleared out my desk with trembling hands, fighting back tears, I wondered if they'd regret throwing away the one person who knew their deepest, darkest secrets. My coffee splashed onto the desk as Tony burst into my office without knocking. 28 years of visionary tech, and he still couldn't respect a closed door. Steve, big news. The board approved Project Ultron. Tony's eyes gleamed with excitement. We're revolutionizing the whole company. I dabbed at the coffee with a tissue. That's great. When do you need my team to start preparing? Infrastructure. His smile faltered slightly. Actually, that's why I'm here. Natasha wants to see you right away. Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. I'd been through 5 CEOs in my time here, but Natasha Rogers was different. All metrics and bottom lines, no interest in our company culture or history. The executive floor was buzzing with unusual activity. Through glass walls, I spotted unfamiliar faces in dark suits studying diagrams of our network architecture, my network architecture. Natasha didn't look up when I entered. Steve, take a seat. She finally raised her eyes from her tablet. At 42, she was 20 years my junior but carried herself with the cold confidence of someone who'd never doubted a decision. Project Ultron is moving forward immediately, she said. The board is very excited about the efficiency gains. I tried to sound professional despite my growing unease. My team will need time to prepare. That your team won't be involved, she cut in. We've contracted outside specialists. They start tomorrow. I felt a chill. I see. And my role? Natasha slid a folder across the desk. This outlines the transition. We're implementing an AI system that will assume most operational oversight functions. Your position is being eliminated effective 30 days from now. My hands went numb as I opened the folder. Severance package, non-disclosure agreement, knowledge transfer checklist. The room seemed to tilt sideways. 28 years, I said quietly. I've given this company 28 years. Natasha's expression didn't change. And we appreciate your service, Steve. That's why your severance is generous. 6 months salary, extended benefits. She glanced at her watch. I have another meeting. Bruce will walk you through the transition details and knowledge transfer process. Bruce waited outside, my youngest team member who joined just 3 years ago. His eyes couldn't meet mine. You knew, I said as we walked to the conference room. It wasn't a question. He nodded slightly. They made me sign an NDA 2 months ago. I wanted to tell you. The knowledge transfer checklist was 40 pages long. Every system, every process, every workaround I'd created over decades. The AI needs to understand your thought process. Bruce explained. How you troubleshoot, how you predict system needs. I laughed bitterly. They're not just taking my job. They want my brain too. That night, I sat in my home office surrounded by family photos and service awards. My phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, sympathy, shock, offers to meet for drinks. But one text caught my attention from Clint, our former security chief who'd been pushed out 6 months earlier. Now do you believe me about what's happening? Check your personal email. Password is your old employee ID. The email contained encrypted files with a message, evidence of what they're really building. Ultron isn't just an efficiency upgrade. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Opening these could violate my NDA, but they were pushing me out anyway, discarding decades of loyalty like it meant nothing. By midnight, I'd cracked the first layer of encryption. What I found made my blood run cold. Project Ultron wasn't just replacing me, it was weaponizing my work, transforming business systems I'd built into something far more sinister. The question wasn't whether to fight back anymore, but how to stop what I'd unknowingly helped create. The next morning, I smiled pleasantly through my first knowledge transfer session with Tony and his team of programmers. Let's start with the network topology, Tony suggested. I nodded agreeably while silently cataloging which critical systems were conspicuously absent from their diagrams, systems they didn't even know existed. When Wanda from legal brought additional paperwork for me to sign, I noticed her lingering gaze on my computer screen. Later, I found a note in my jacket pocket with a phone number and 3 words, "We need help." As I drove home that evening, I spotted a black sedan following me through traffic. My phone showed a notification from my home security system, motion detected at the back door. Someone was searching my house. That's when I knew this wasn't just about replacing an aging employee with AI. They were afraid of what I knew, what I'd built into their systems over decades. And they were right to be afraid. 28 years had taught me how to build things it had also taught me how to take them apart. The morning sun filtered through my basement blinds as I hunched over an old laptop, disconnected from any network. For 3 days, I'd been meticulously documenting everything I remembered about visionary tech's hidden systems, especially the ones missing from the official knowledge transfer documents. My phone buzzed. Bruce again, the 5th call today. I let it go to voicemail like the others. You can't hide forever, you know, said Clint, nursing a beer across my basement workbench. He'd arrived at midnight after I'd called the number Wanda gave me. They're watching your house, monitoring your accounts. They know something's wrong. I rubbed my tired eyes. What exactly did you do to get fired, Clint? The official story was security protocol violations. Clint's face darkened. I found server clusters running unauthorized data collection. Customer information flowing to places it shouldn't. When I reported it to Nicholas, our founder, remember him, he promised to investigate. 2 days later, he retired and I was escorted out by security. He leaned forward. Nicholas contacted me last week. He wants to meet with both of us. The coffee shop was crowded enough to provide cover but quiet enough for conversation. Nicholas' fury looked different from the commanding CEO I'd known, older, more cautious. Sorry for the cloak and dagger, he said softly, but they're monitoring everything connected to Visionary. His good eye fixed on me. How much have you figured out? I slid a thumb drive across the table. Project Ultron isn't just an AI replacement for middle management. They're using my infrastructure designs to build something else. The diagrams don't match what we actually implemented. Nicholas pocketed the drive. When I founded this company, we made tools to help businesses. Somewhere along the way, certain investors saw other possibilities. Wanda joined us, sliding into the booth with legal folders that disguised our real meeting. The board meeting minutes show the decision to pivot happened after the government contract 3 years ago, she whispered. The surveillance capabilities were supposedly for national security. Now they're planning to sell them commercially. My hands tightened around my coffee cup. Using my systems I built to protect user data. Nicholas nodded grimly. That's why they need to get rid of anyone who understands how those systems really work. Anyone who might object. Wanda opened her laptop discreetly. I pulled these files from Natasha's secure server. Project Ultron goes live in 15 days, not 30. Like they told you. The laptop showed detailed plans, my team being systematically disbanded, replaced by contractors who didn't understand the ethical guardrails we built into every system. They think they have everything they need from you, Clint said. But I'm betting there are things you never documented. Things only you know. Nicholas leaned forward. We need leverage, Steve. Something that proves what they're doing and can stop it when exposed. I thought about the hidden servers, the backup protocols, the fail-safes I'd built after that questionable government contract. There is something, but I need access to the main server room. Impossible, Clint said immediately. They've doubled security and your badge access was the first thing they revoked. Wanda's eyes lit up. Not entirely impossible. You still have to complete the knowledge transfer. We could create a distraction that requires emergency server access. Back at Visionary the next day, I sat through another knowledge transfer session, watching Tony and his team struggle to understand systems that had evolved organically over decades. This network pathway is inefficient, Tony complained, pointing at my diagram. Why route through these extra nodes? I shrugged casually. Legacy systems. Some of our oldest clients have special security requirements. His frustration was visible. Good. The more confused they were, the more they'd need my help. After lunch, Bruce pulled me aside in the hallway. They're getting suspicious. Tony wants to accelerate the transition. You're supposed to be done by Friday, not in 3 weeks. I felt a flash of panic. That's not enough time to transfer everything properly. Bruce lowered his voice further. There's something else. I accessed the Ultron test environment last night. It's scanning employee communications, flagging concerning patterns. Your name is on a watch list. My mind raced. We needed to move faster. Bruce, do you trust me? He hesitated, then nodded. I need access to server room B just for 10 minutes. That's impossible without. Bruce stopped mid-sentence as the building's fire alarm suddenly blared. Wanda's distraction right on schedule. As employees evacuated, Bruce hesitated, then handed me his access badge. 10 minutes. I was never here. In the chaos, I slipped down to the lower level, Bruce's badge giving me access to the server farm. The humming racks of equipment had been my domain for decades. I moved directly to an unmarked server in the back corner, one that didn't appear on any official network diagrams. My fingers flew across the keyboard, activating a dormant protocol I built years ago, a complete backup of all system activity stored on a secure cloud server only I could access. As I finished, the door behind me hissed open. Tony stood there, security guards flanking him. "I knew it," he said, his face flushed with triumph. Caught in the act of corporate espionage. I stood slowly, hands visible. "This isn't what it looks like, Tony." He stepped closer. "Really? Because it looks like you're accessing systems you no longer have authorization for. Systems critical to Project Ultron." The security guards moved to either side of me. Tony picked up my tablet, examining what I'd been doing. His confident expression faltered slightly as he scrolled through screens he didn't fully understand. "What did you just activate?" I met his gaze steadily. "Insurance. You're building something dangerous with my life's work. Did you really think I wouldn't have protections in place?" His face hardened. "Take him to my office," he ordered the guards. "And call Natasha." As they escorted me upstairs, I glimpsed Bruce watching from across the atrium, his expression torn between guilt and determination. In that moment, I realized something important. I wasn't fighting just for myself anymore, but for everyone who would be affected by what visionary tech was becoming. In Tony's office, Natasha was already waiting, her face a mask of controlled anger. "We offered you a generous separation, Steve. Why couldn't you just take it and go quietly?" I sat calmly across from her. "Because I helped build something meant to help people, not spy on them. Not track their every move and sell the data." "That's a serious accusation," she said coolly. "Without evidence, it could be considered defamation." I smiled for the first time that day. That's the thing about building systems for 28 years. You learn to keep receipts. Her composed facade cracked slightly. "What exactly do you think you have?" Outside the window, I could see clouds gathering for a storm fitting for the confrontation brewing inside. What I'd done in those 10 minutes wasn't just about preserving evidence. It was about activating a dead man switch that would expose everything if anything happened to me. All I needed now was time for my old friends to play their part in the plan we'd set at the coffee shop. Rain drummed against the windows of Tony's office as Natasha circled me like a predator. "Whatever you think you've done, it won't matter," she said, tapping furiously on her tablet. "The board meeting tomorrow will finalize Ultron's implementation schedule. Your little stunt just accelerated your termination. My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. Did anyone ever explain to the board what Ultron actually does? Not the efficiency gains you promised, but the massive data harvesting operation built on my infrastructure." Natasha's eyes narrowed. "Don't try playing the concerned citizen now. You built those systems. I built secure networks for business applications, not surveillance tools," I countered. "Check. The original specifications from Nicholas's days. Nothing I designed was meant for what you're planning." Tony snorted from his position by the door. "Plans change. Technology evolves. You didn't." The security guards shifted uncomfortably as our voices rose. I noticed one of them touching his earpiece. "We have a situation in reception," he murmured to Tony. "Someone's asking for Steve. Says he has urgent legal documents." Tony waved dismissively. "Get rid of them." The guard hesitated. "Sir, he says he's Nicholas Fury's attorney and he has the original company bylaws. And there are reporters with him." The color drained from Natasha's face. "Stall them," she hissed, then turned to me. "What did you do?" I smiled calmly. "I didn't do anything. But Nicholas Fury founded this company with very specific governance rules. Rules that prevent exactly what Project Ultron is attempting to do with customer data." Thunder cracked outside as the office door burst open. Wanda strode in, no longer the quiet legal associate but radiating authority. "The board members are assembling in the main conference room," she announced, ignoring Natasha's sputtering objections. "Nicholas Fury has called an emergency governance review under Section 7 of the corporate charter." Tony lunged for his phone. "This is ridiculous. Nicholas sold his voting shares 2 years ago." Wanda calmly placed a document on the desk. "He sold his common shares. But the founder's golden shares with special voting rights on matters of corporate purpose? Those were never transferred." The next hour passed in a blur of legal terminology and corporate governance battles. I sat quietly while Natasha and Tony fought against the procedural trap Nicholas had set years ago, a failsafe in case his company ever tried to become something he hadn't intended. By evening, the storm had passed, both outside and within the company. The boardroom doors finally opened. Nicholas emerged first, his expression grim but satisfied. The board has suspended Project Ultron pending a full ethical review, he announced to our small group, waiting in the hallway, and they've placed certain executives on administrative leave. Behind him, Natasha stormed out, her face twisted with rage. This isn't over, she snarled at me. You've damaged this company's future with your outdated moral panic. Bruce stepped between us. Actually, he saved us from the largest corporate liability and consumer privacy lawsuit in history. Back in my office, now unguarded, I finally breathed freely. Clint perched on the edge of my desk. So, what happens now? They still want to replace you with AI. I nodded slowly. Yes, but not with Ultron. If they want to automate my job, that's progress. But it has to be done ethically, transparently. Nicholas knocked on my open door. Got a minute? He looked older, but the sharp intelligence in his eyes remained. The board wants to talk to you tomorrow about a new position. I raised my eyebrows. Doing what exactly? Chief Ethics Officer for AI implementation, he said with a small smile. Someone needs to make sure Visionary stays visionary in the right ways. My phone buzzed with a text from my wife. Coming home soon? Kids want to celebrate. Before I could respond, Tony appeared in the doorway, security escort behind him. His face was flushed with anger. You think you've won? You've just delayed the inevitable. AI will replace all of you dinosaurs eventually. Nicholas started to respond, but I raised my hand. You're right, Tony, I said calmly. AI will transform this industry, but it should enhance humanity, not exploit it. That's what you never understood. Tony sneered. Save the philosophy lecture. You're still obsolete. As security led him away, Bruce approached with a stack of files. There's something you should see, he said urgently. When we suspended Ultron, we found a hidden subroutine in the code. Something that wasn't in any of the specifications. The files showed a sophisticated hacking system embedded within Ultron designed to access competitor systems once deployed. This goes beyond surveillance, Wanda whispered, leaning over my shoulder. This is corporate espionage on a massive scale. Nicholas's expression darkened. Who could have programmed this? It wasn't part of any approved development. All eyes turned to Tony's now empty office. Bruce coughed awkwardly. There's more. The code signature matches an external organization, not our developers. And Tony's been making calls to a number registered to Hydra Technologies. My stomach dropped. Hydra was our biggest competitor, known for aggressive tactics and ethical shortcuts. So this wasn't just about replacing experienced employees with AI, I said. Slowly, it was a Trojan horse to steal our intellectual property. Wanda quickly pulled up Tony's employment contract on her tablet. His non-compete clause specifically mentioned Hydra. This is a clear violation. Nicholas gripped the back of a chair, his knuckles white. We need to secure all his access immediately and notify the authorities. As the crisis team scrambled into action, I stood at my office window watching rain-slicked streets below. 28 years of building something valuable almost dismantled in weeks by corporate greed and short-sighted leadership. My phone buzzed again with another text from my wife. Are you okay? News is saying something big happening at Visionary. The situation had evolved far beyond my job security. Now it was about protecting everything we'd built from being weaponized. And ironically, the knowledge they had tried to extract from me before discarding me was now the company's best defense. Bruce appeared at my side, his young face serious. The forensic team needs your help, mapping the network vulnerabilities Tony might have exposed. I nodded, rolling up my sleeves. Let's get to work. Sunlight streamed through the blinds of my new office, highlighting the plaque on my door. Chief Ethics Officer, AI Integration. 3 months had passed since the Ultron crisis, and Visionary Tech was rebuilding itself from the inside out. Bruce knocked and entered with a fresh cup of coffee. Board presentation in 30 minutes. Ready to shine? I sighed, adjusting my tie. Ready as I'll ever be. The transition hadn't been smooth. Half the executive team replaced, our stock price on a roller coaster, and competitors circling like sharks. But we were standing on solid ground again, ethical ground. The hallway buzzed with activity as we walked to the conference room. Employees nodded respectfully as we passed. The fear that had permeated the building during Natasha's reign had dissipated, replaced by cautious optimism. I recognized faces from my old team, now working alongside AI specialists on the new integration project. Nicholas waited by the conference room doors. "Moment of truth," he said quietly. "Shield is ready for demonstration?" I nodded. Shield was our answer to Ultron, an AI assistant, designed to support human workers rather than replace them, with transparent ethical guidelines and privacy protections built into its core. Inside, the boardroom was packed. Investors, press, even government regulators waited expectantly. Wanda stood at the front, concluding her legal presentation, which is why Shield complies with all current and anticipated privacy regulations. She nodded to me as I took her place. 28 years ago, I joined Visionary because I believed technology should help people work better, not replace their humanity, I began. Faces that had once looked at me as obsolete now watched attentively. Shield represents that philosophy. It's not designed to eliminate jobs, but to eliminate drudgery from jobs. Bruce activated the main screen, showing Shield's interface. "Let me demonstrate," I continued. Shield can process routine approvals while flagging unusual patterns for human review. It can draft standard communications but recognizes when a situation requires human empathy. Questions flew from all directions. How much would it cost? How much would it save? How would we prevent another Ultron situation? I answered each one directly, honestly. No corporate doublespeak, no inflated promises. Just the balanced truth about AI's capabilities and limitations. As the presentation concluded, the mood in the room was electric. Nicholas clapped me on the shoulder. "You've come a long way from the guy they tried to push out the door." I smiled ruefully. Sometimes getting pushed brings out your best fighting spirit. Later that afternoon, I found Clint waiting in my office, feet propped on my desk like old times. "Quite a performance," he said, grinning. "You're getting good at this executive thing." I shooed his feet off my paperwork. "How's security consulting treating you?" Clint's expression turned serious. "That's why I'm here. We've been monitoring Hydra Technologies since the Tony situation. Their new AI platform launches next week, and it looks familiar." He handed me a tablet with Hydra's press release. My blood ran cold as I read between the lines. "They're using Ultron's architecture." "Not all of it," Clint clarified, "but enough that it can't be coincidence. Tony must have transferred some elements before we caught him." I pinched the bridge of my nose, feeling a headache brewing. "Does Nicholas know?" Clint nodded grimly. "Emergency board call tonight. This could undo everything we've rebuilt." The crisis team gathered in the secure conference room as night fell. Nicholas paced anxiously, while Wanda outlined our legal options. A cease and desist based on intellectual property theft is our strongest move, but litigation could take years. Bruce, now our head of cybersecurity, shook his head. By then, the damage would be done. Their system has the same privacy vulnerabilities as Ultron, but without any of our planned safeguards. I studied the technical specifications he'd gathered. "How did you get these?" Bruce's face reddened slightly. "Let's just say Hydra's network security isn't as good as ours." Nicholas slammed his hand on the table. "So we're back where we started. The same dangerous technology, just under a different company's control." The room fell silent. All the work we'd done, the ethical stance we'd taken, threatened by a competitor with fewer scruples. I thought back to those days when they tried to extract my knowledge before discarding me. Then something clicked. "What if they don't have everything?" I said slowly. "Ultron was built on my infrastructure, but there were elements only I fully understood." Wanda looked up sharply. "What are you suggesting?" I opened my laptop. "Remember the failsafe I activated during the crisis? The one that exposed Ultron's true purpose to the board?" Clint nodded. "The dead man switch, but that was specific to our systems." "The architecture is similar enough," I continued, typing rapidly. "If Hydra's system is based on Ultron's code, it should have the same vulnerability. And if I can access their test environment My fingers flew across the keyboard, applying decades of network knowledge to this new challenge. Hours passed as we worked through the night. Dawn was breaking when Bruce suddenly shouted, "We're in!" Connection established to Hydra's development server. On our screen, code scrolled rapidly as we explored the heart of our competitor's system. "It's definitely based on Ultron," I confirmed. "But they've modified it significantly. The surveillance capabilities are even more aggressive." Nicholas leaned closer to the screen. "Can you neutralize it?" I hesitated. "Not without committing corporate espionage ourselves." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. "But we can document it, prove they stole our intellectual property, and..." I paused, a new idea forming. "And what?" Wanda prompted. I smiled slowly. "And we can use S.H.I.E.L.D. to develop a consumer protection plugin that specifically blocks these kinds of undisclosed data collection methods. We can immunize the market against their tactics." The team's energy shifted from desperation to determination. Nicholas clasped my shoulder. "This is why we needed you. Not just your technical knowledge, but your ethical compass." Bruce was already sketching out the plugin architecture. We could have this ready before their launch. As morning light filled the room, our path forward became clear. We wouldn't stoop to Hydra's level. Instead, we'd use our knowledge to protect people from the very threats we'd helped create, however unwittingly. Later that week, as S.H.I.E.L.D. launched alongside our free privacy protection toolkit, I watched from backstage as Nicholas addressed the technology conference. "At Visionary, we believe AI should serve humanity, not surveil it," he declared to thunderous applause. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Hydra Technologies had delayed their launch indefinitely, citing technical refinements. Bruce sidled up beside me, grinning. "Funny how quickly they backed down once we announced our privacy plugin, isn't it?" I nodded, feeling a complex mix of vindication and responsibility. The knowledge they had tried to extract from me before replacing me had become something more valuable than they ever imagined. Not just technical expertise, but a vision for how technology should serve people. As we celebrated that evening, Clint raised his glass in a toast to the guy they thought they could replace with an algorithm. Everyone laughed, but Nicholas added quietly, "And two, remembering that some things can't be automated, like wisdom, judgment, and doing the right thing." The gleaming Technology Ethics Award sat on my desk, catching the morning light. 1 year had passed since the Ultron crisis, and visionary tech had risen from its ashes, transformed. My phone buzzed with a text from my daughter. "Dad, you're trending again." I smiled still, unused to my newfound status as the AI ethics grandfather, a nickname both flattering and slightly irritating for a man of 56. The Senate testimony last month had thrust me into an unexpected spotlight. What began as a routine hearing about AI regulation had turned dramatic when Senator Rhodes asked about my experience. "Mr. Rogers, you were nearly replaced by the very technology you helped create. How did that shape your views on AI ethics?" The video of my response had gone viral. "When you built something for 28 years, you understand its power and its dangers. AI isn't the enemy. Greed and short-sightedness are." A knock interrupted my thoughts. Bruce entered, tablet in hand, his former awkwardness now replaced by quiet confidence. "The Sentinel acquisition is finalized," he announced. "Their security team starts integration next week." I nodded, appreciating the irony. Visionary tech, which had once almost pushed me out for an AI, was now acquiring smaller tech firms to grow our human workforce alongside our technology. The executive floor buzzed with activity as we walked to the quarterly all-hands meeting. Employees from all departments packed the auditorium, with hundreds more joining virtually. Nicholas, now chairman of the board, took the stage first. 1 year ago, Visionary Tech stood at a crossroads, he began. "Today, we're setting the standard for ethical AI integration across the industry. And much of that is thanks to our Chief Ethics Officer, Steve Rogers." Applause filled the room as I took the podium. These meetings still made me nervous, despite the dozens I'd led over the past year. "Thank you," I began, "but the real credit goes to all of you. You chose to build technology that empowers rather than replaces people. The presentation flowed smoothly as I shared our latest metrics: productivity up 43%, employee satisfaction at record highs, and our Shield AI platform now helping over 200,000 workers across 3 continents. As I finished, Wanda joined me on stage for the Q&A session. The first question came from a new hire in engineering. After everything that happened with Project Ultron, aren't you worried about other companies developing similar technologies without ethical constraints? Wanda fielded this one. That's why we open-sourced our ethical framework. By making Shield's privacy protocols available to everyone, we've created an industry standard that's becoming difficult to ignore. She didn't mention our ongoing behind-the-scenes battle with tech giants who were pushing back against these standards. The meeting concluded with Nicholas announcing our new education initiative, a free course for workers concerned about AI replacing their jobs. Technology should lift everyone up, not just those who create it, he declared to enthusiastic applause. Back in my office, Clint waited with a troubled expression. We have a situation, he said quietly, closing the door behind him. Remember Tony? My stomach tightened. Our former CTO had vanished after his indictment for corporate espionage, jumping bail before his trial. What about him? I asked, already dreading the answer. Clint handed me his secure tablet. He's resurfaced at Hydra Technologies. Not officially, they're too smart for that, but our sources confirm he's consulting for them through shell companies. On the screen was a press release announcing Hydra's new Phoenix platform, described as revolutionary AI technology that will redefine workplace efficiency. The language was vague, but to someone who had spent decades in the field, the implications were clear. They're trying again, I murmured. A reborn Ultron under a different name. Clint nodded grimly, and this time they've covered their tracks better. No obvious code theft, no direct connections to our intellectual property. My phone rang, Nicholas requesting an immediate strategy meeting. Within the hour, our core team assembled in the secure conference room. Bruce's face was pale as he presented his technical analysis. Phoenix uses a fundamentally different architecture from Ultron, but achieves many of the same surveillance capabilities. They've learned from our exposure of their previous attempt. Wanda's legal assessment wasn't more encouraging. Without clear evidence of IP theft, our legal options are limited. They've been careful this time. Nicholas paced the room, frustration evident in every step. So they get away with releasing the same dangerous technology, just built from scratch. I studied the technical specifications Bruce had gathered. Something about the approach seemed familiar, not from Ultron, but from earlier in my career. This methodology, I said slowly, it resembles a research project from MIT about 15 years ago. A theoretical framework that was abandoned because of privacy concerns. Bruce typed rapidly, pulling up academic papers. You're right. The core architecture is based on Dr. Samuel Wilson's work from 2010, but he specifically warned against commercial applications because of ethical issues. Nicholas leaned over the screen. Can we contact Wilson? Get him to speak out against this use of his research. Clint shook his head. Wilson died 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. We were facing a new threat built on abandoned research without our previous legal recourse. There must be something we can do, Wanda insisted. We can't let them release this into the market. I closed my eyes, thinking back through my decades in the industry. Every system had vulnerabilities, not just technical ones, but also in how it was perceived, deployed, and regulated. We need to shift our approach, I said finally. If we can't stop Phoenix legally or technically, we need to make it commercially non-viable. Over the next weeks, our strategy took shape. Instead of attacking Hydra directly, we accelerated the development of our Shield platform's capabilities. We created straightforward, educational content explaining the privacy risks of AI systems like Phoenix in terms anyone could understand. Most importantly, we launched a certification program for human-centered AI that major clients began requiring from all vendors. The morning of Phoenix's launch, I sat in the back of a packed industry conference hall, watching Hydra's CEO, Peter Quill, on stage. Phoenix represents the future of workplace optimization, he declared confidently. Our AI doesn't just assist workers, it redefines what work can be. The demonstration was slick, the promises bold. But during the Q&A, the tone shifted. The first question came from a reporter we'd briefed about surveillance concerns. The next from a labor Representative worried about job displacement. By the time the session ended, Quill's confident smile had hardened into something defensive. In the hallway afterward, I came face to face with Tony for the first time since his disappearance. He looked thinner with new lines around his eyes, but the arrogance remained. Orchestrating the hit pieces, Steve? Classy. I kept my voice level. No hit pieces. Just transparency about what technologies like Phoenix really do. Tony stepped closer, lowering his voice. You think you've won, but you're just delaying the inevitable. AI will replace most jobs eventually. It's evolution. I met his gaze steadily. Evolution isn't just about who's strongest, Tony. It's about who best adapts to serve the whole ecosystem. Back at Visionary, we monitored Phoenix's rollout closely. Initial sales were strong, fueled by Hydra's marketing machine. But after 3 months, the tide began to turn. Major clients started backing out of contracts, citing concerns about employee privacy and morale. Government agencies announced reviews of AI surveillance capabilities. Hydra's stock price wobbled. On a rainy Tuesday 6 months after Phoenix's launch, Peter Quill requested a meeting at a neutral location, a quiet restaurant halfway between our companies. Nicholas insisted on joining me, suspicious of Quill's intentions. We found him alone at a corner table, looking far less triumphant than at his product launch. Let's cut to the chase, Quill said after perfunctory greetings. Phoenix isn't gaining traction the way we projected. Your certification program has become a market requirement we can't meet. With our current architecture, Nicholas remained silent, watching Quill carefully. What exactly are you proposing? I asked. Quill took a deep breath. A partnership. Your ethical framework, our advanced functionality. A joint venture that combines the best of both approaches. The proposal was unexpected, and I could see Nicholas's skepticism. Why would we trust Hydra after everything that's happened? Nicholas asked bluntly. Quill grimaced. Because the board has given me 3 months to turn this around or Phoenix gets shut down entirely. And because certain individuals who pushed the previous approach are no longer with the company. Tony? I asked. Quill nodded. Gone. The board finally recognized he was more liability than asset. The conversation continued for hours, exploring possibilities neither company had considered before. By evening, we had the framework of an agreement that would allow Hydra to adopt our ethical standards while bringing their technical innovations to our platform. The following months brought rapid change. The joint venture, named Guardian, combined Hydra's efficiency algorithms with our privacy protections. Tony vanished from the industry, entirely, reportedly moving overseas. Most surprisingly, our companies began sharing research and best practices on ethical AI development. 1 year to the day after our meeting with Quill, I stood on stage at the World Economic Forum, presenting Guardian's impact across multiple industries. We've proven that ethical AI isn't just the right approach, it's the most profitable one, I concluded. Technology that respects human dignity creates more value than technology that diminishes it. The standing ovation was gratifying, but even more meaningful was the message waiting on my phone afterward. My old team, the one I'd led before the Ultron crisis, had sent a photo from their celebration dinner. The caption read, Guardian made us the highest performing division this quarter. Turns out humans plus ethical AI beats surveillance every time. That evening, alone in my hotel room, I pulled out the original termination notice I'd received 2 years earlier. Position eliminated due to technological optimization, it read clinically. The paper had grown worn from the many times I'd unfolded it during dark moments of doubt. As I typed the final paragraph, an email notification appeared. The Guardian project had just won the National Technology Ethics Award. Attached was a photo of the Visionary and Hydra, teams celebrating together, former enemies now collaborators in building a better future. Smiled, thinking of the long, unexpected journey from nearly being discarded to helping reshape an industry. Sometimes being replaced is just the beginning of your most important work.